So many eventful races here in Barcelona over the years. Do you remember Max Verstappen's first win on debut for Red Bull here in 2016? 2 years before, we had the dramatic coming together of Hamilton and Rosberg going towards turn 4. There's always a treat in store as we head back to the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya for the Spanish Grand Prix. It's an updated track at Catalunya, and we welcome the removal of the chicane in the final sector, shortening lap times and reducing the total running to 2.9 miles and 14 turns. This was actually the original setup for the track, but it hasn't been used since 2007. So with the race not far away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position. And a very happy Carlos Sainz will start second. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Leclerc, Hamilton, Fernando Alonso, Norris, Perez, Fox, Albon, Oscar Piastri, Ricciardo, Joe, Behrman, Sargent, Ocon, Tsunoda, Russell, Stroll, Hülkenberg, and Valtteri Bottas begins the race from the back of the grid. It's almost time for those 5 red lights to go out then. Let's see who can prevail today. And alongside me for the first time this season here in the commentary box, Naomi Schiff. Hello, Gnomes. Look, we know it's not where you start, it's where you finish. But let's talk about the start now. What's there to help the drivers get away well?
Well, the race is certainly not won in the first lap, let alone turn 1. However, what you can do is prepare yourself ahead of time. Visualize what could potentially happen, different scenarios and where you could place your car. And that will better prepare you to make the right decision with instinctive timing.
Okay, how was that pull away? Right, let's get the car up to temperature on this lap, please. We're learning the gears, so let's go through them all if you can. Okay, incredible parking there, nice one. That's going to give you the edge if you can get good launch as the race starts. Keep an eye on the lights, the start sequence will... Alright, let's focus now for the rest of the race. DRS is being enabled this lap. We can use DRS when you're within 1 second of the car ahead and in the DRS zone. Look out for a bit of understeer when trailing the car ahead. They're going to be giving off dirty air, which is going to affect our tyres, so try to get past. Okay, gap ahead, 2.3 seconds. Okay, be aware, the grip levels are going to start falling away soon. We're approaching the pit window and you're going to be on mediums. That's it, go, go, go. Perfect job from you and the crew there, mate. We're delighted with that. That was our last stop. No more scheduled pit stops. Let's go. Okay, mate, we're currently burning through fuel a bit quicker than we'd like, so let's try and make it last for now, please. Let's use overtake and burn off some of this energy. Remember to adjust your ERS mode in your MFD if you need to. The car behind's just boxed for mediums. Car behind on the medium tyre now. Okay, Nico's into the pits. Nico in the pits. Okay, we've got 12 laps of fuel remaining. Okay, unlucky mate, that wasn't quite what we needed, but let's not worry about it. Get your head down and chin up, there's a long way to go. Okay, good work. Great pass. Okay, we're down to our last 10 laps of fuel. Gap to the car in front, 2.1 seconds. Okay, we've got a full course caution, the safety car's out. Keep an eye on the delta, we need to keep it positive to avoid a penalty. Slow down, maintain positive delta. Okay, the officials have deployed the safety car due to multiple cars being stopped on track. Mind your delta. Okay, we've got 7 laps worth of fuel remaining. Okay, over to... Safety car in this lap, safety car in this lap. Let's make sure those tyres are up to temperature, and remember, there's no overtaking until the timing line. Stay in position until the green flags. Okay, clear. Okay, gap to the car ahead, 1.6. Use your overtake button more. It's time to utilise some of this energy. Come on. Okay, be careful with the front wing. You've taken some minor... Okay, here's the gap that we're trailing the car ahead by. 1.7 seconds. Okay, be careful. We think you're going to start losing some tyre grip anytime now. Okay, you've taken damage to the side pods. Expect to feel a little bit more drag than normal.
And in the end, here comes It's been an absolutely wild weekend of